guys, Rasati out here in Singapore. I'm back again, and I wanted to talk to you this time a little bit about another concept that I think is really, really important. Now, why do I even teach any of this stuff? Why do I talk about my past? Why do I open up and tell you all these deep, dark, tragic things that I've been through? All of the confusion, the nonsense, the way that I speak to myself, the way that my clients are struggling. Like, why do I give you any of this stuff? Why do I tell you all these things? The reason is because I want you to have the opportunity to go back and look at what's been going on in your life to see what went wrong in your opinion and where you can maybe find a way to get it right in the future. Because I believe that every decision you've made can be undone or redone at some point in your present moment. I want you to be able to feel like you have the power, the hope, the skill set, the toolbox, the toolkit, whatever you want to call it, but you have the ability to rectify a couple things. Maybe you allowed things that you find now are not helpful at all. I mean, honestly, where we are in our lives at this present moment is at some point something we wished for, something we asked for. And if we didn't ask for it, something that we allowed to happen. Maybe we allowed it to happen over and over again. Maybe it's something that we let people begin doing, and because it wasn't such a big deal and you could tahan it or endure it a little bit at the time, you let it happen over and over again over a period of time, and now it's so upsetting and so difficult for you to bear that it no longer is something that you want. Sometimes you have to get exactly what you're asking for in order to understand that that's not what you want, right? So honestly speaking, in this present moment, the situation that you're in is something that you asked for or allowed at some point. Now, what I want you to be able to do through the course of, I don't know, speaking to me as a coaching professional, listening to my podcast, reading my blogs, reading my Instagram posts, wherever you tend to follow me, I want you to be able to give yourself the benefit of the doubt that at the time you thought you knew what you wanted. Now you know a little bit better now that you've had a dose of what you asked for, and you are still able to make a decision that impacts your future by changing what you have right now. Maybe it's something as simple as learning how to say no to somebody that you've been allowing to treat you badly for a while. Maybe it's something as simple as drawing a boundary so that you really do understand who wants to be there for you and who's just along for the ride at the moment because it's convenient for them. Maybe it's something as simple as deviating from the original plan because you thought there was no other choice but to do what your parents asked you to do. And now you're realizing, hey, I need to be happy too. The plan that they had for me doesn't really line up with the things that I'm interested in. I want to follow my curiosity and find a way to make that profitable as well for me. So, whatever the situation is, the reason I am here, the reason I'm talking to you guys, the reason that I'm, bearing my soul all the time is because I need you to know that anything that you've done along the way, for the most part, can be undone. It can be redone. You have the power to choose for yourself again. I want you to be able to go back to a familiar situation where you usually get it wrong and to know that with the right encouragement, support system, with the right knowledge and abilities, you can choose again and get it right where you usually get it wrong. For me, that's been a lot of relationship work. It's been a lot of situations in intimate relationships, not necessarily romantic. I mean, if it's a very, very close bond, your best friend, your parent, your daughter, your favorite cousin, whoever it is, whoever you speak to, you have the ability to stand up for yourself without hurting the other person, where maybe before you never stood up at all. Maybe before you just allowed them to use you. Maybe in some circumstances you turned a blind eye to a very bad behavior that was going on in the family dynamic. And now you know that it's not okay and you're allowed to speak up against it. And maybe you saved someone else from being abused somehow because you spoke up. Meaning to say that before, because you didn't know better, you allowed something to happen. And now because you do know better, and you have the skill sets available, that you're able to stand up for something and change the course of other people's lives for the better because you feel empowered to stand up for these things. I hope this makes sense. It's very, very vague right now, but let me see if I can give you some examples, yeah? I have had a great many people come in and out of my life. Lots of people. I mean, I've moved to 5 different countries, right? I've been to so many different schools, and I have friends from around the world on Facebook. But there have been times where they take me for granted. I had a very close friendship of mine whom I've lost touch with them since high school, lost touch with them for many, many years, got back in touch with them through the course of Facebook, and I know that they were going through a difficult time period. Now, they knew very well what I did for a living. I am an emotional intelligence coach. I teach mindset, motivation. I help you dig past, what the surface level problem is to figure out where it is that you have decided this is, okay for you, that you've allowed it so many times. Now, he happened to be going through a difficult time in his marriage, and I felt badly for him. And I'm a friend. Yeah, of course, I would sit and talk to him for hours at a time. But there came a moment where he started asking buying questions. By buying questions, I mean he started asking me for what my rates were, what my times were like. He knew that he and I got along very well and that I would be a good fit for him. And he happened to go and see a professional that he was less than enthusiastic about meeting again because they just didn't fix anything. They didn't speak to him about anything. They did not connect very well. So I started asking buying questions and I felt pretty good about that. I was thinking, wow, this would be really great. It's a friend of mine. He knows me already. He knows what I'm like. He knows where to fight. It's not like I'm going to disappear on him. And we can actually really talk to the heart of the matter. I don't have to worry about hurting his feelings or anything because we've gotten to a point in our friendship where I can tell him what's what and he's going to, disappear for a while, lick his wounds and come back and we're going to talk again. So I thought that was great because if he really does want to change for the better and make his marriage stronger and really be there for his kids and really change his life for the better, then I'm in a good position to really tell him what's what, and he's in a position where he trusts me enough to actually listen. I was happy with the questions. I was happy to help him out. And once he asked the buying questions, though, the nature of our relationship changed. And from then onwards, he felt like it was okay to go back and still be chummy and have these long discussions where I actually coach him through a lot of life situations, but he was not about to pay me for it. Now, time went by and he felt me drift away because I was not going to continually answer questions, the same questions, mind you, over and over again about how he could make his life better if he was not going to take the advice, and he was not actually paying me for any of the work that I was doing. Because, mind you, I was doing a lot of work. He finally got upset, and it hurt me to have to let this relationship go. But I needed to understand and be able to stand up for myself in order to tell him, hey, what I was doing was work. What you were doing was venting to a friend. And while you might think it's okay to have a beer and discuss some of these things, that's not actually what I do for a living. My advice is not beer barroom advice. The things that I'm telling you and the things that I'm considering when I give you advice is not the kind of thing you'll find behind, a bunch of shots and just venting at the end of a really long week. That's not what I do. The fact that he was very, very upset and offended with this caught me off guard, definitely, but I had to make it very clear to him. Once you start asking buying questions, that means that you're trying to establish a business relationship. It's very hard to go back to the way things were after that. Because honestly speaking, a bar back conversation usually is two-way street, which means I vent and you vent. When you ask repeatedly the same questions over and over, that becomes work for me. So while I did lose that relationship and it did hurt me, I did free up some space where I was continually giving energy and continually helping and giving my advice for free, and it was hurting me and upsetting me, and I was able to let go of a relationship. Not in the most ideal of circumstances. I don't ever love, losing friends or having to cut off people, but it taught me a lot about myself. Now, where before I would have continued because I just wanted to save the relationship, I want to be important to somebody, I wanted any kind of attention, I had learned to say no and set boundaries for myself. Where I used to get it wrong, I found an opportunity to get it right in a new way, to try something different. I've had clients who had difficulty staying at home because the environment at home was toxic. So what they did was they would leave and go to a significant other's place instead. Now, where before they found that this is the only way that they could get out of the house and they thought this was the only way that they could get love, they realized eventually that they were settling for far less than they deserved. They had traded one difficult situation for another difficult situation. And eventually, with enough coaching and counseling, they realized that they had a third choice. They could set boundaries wherever they are and let the other person either match their expectations or fall from it, and they could choose again differently. So where they would fail all the time and come up in crisis and find lots of chaos around them, they found a way to find peace through all the chaos and choose for themselves a better situation. But that did not come without a little bit of counseling, without a little bit of coaching. You always have another choice. You always have the ability to find a way through whatever storm you happen to find yourself in at the moment. Sometimes you can't see the road clearly. Sometimes it takes a third party to be able to tell you what that road looks like, what your options might be, and then it's up to you to test those things and see what works for you. But the whole point of me coaching, the whole point of me offering my years of experience, my years of education, the whole point of offering that is to be able to give you more choices, for you to be able to learn for yourself that there are other ways that you could handle things. So instead of always making the same decision in the same situations, you could choose differently and get a different outcome. That is real growth. That is real education. And I'm here to provide that for any of you who feel like you're coming up against the same brick wall over and over again, and you don't know what you're doing wrong because for some reason it's the same lesson over and over. So please, by all means, if you have questions or concerns, write to me, message me, let me know. No, I'm not doing this for free because I have a family to feed as well. But it's not exorbitant prices. It's not so difficult that you wouldn't be able to afford it. I want to help. So please, message me if you have questions, and I'll do my best to return the answers that I think are easiest for you to practically implement in your life. But in the meantime, know that you have options. It doesn't have to be this way every time. You can choose differently. All right, you guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.